Hello and welcome to Giant Mess, a sloppy sports and entertainment talk show about the New York Giants, the New York Mets, movies, television, comedy, and a whole lot more. It's hosted by a giant mess. That's me, the Real Cinch Neal Lynch. I'm an Irish-Italian-American who graduated from a Catholic high school but is not Catholic, and a college known for producing doctors and lacrosse players, and then I became neither. Instead, I've completely messed up my entire life. And I want you to know about it. I want you to hear about it so maybe you can take comfort and know that your life ain't so bad after all. Leave a voicemail at 862-248-1986. Again, that number is 862-248-1986. That is the last year that your New York Giants, football Giants, and your New York baseball Mets won a world championship in the same year. Subscribe to Giant Mess on YouTube. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And be sure to subscribe to Giant Mess on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever the hell you put podcasts into your old dome. Hey, I'm recording this on Monday night, January 24th. The year is 2022. Holy moly. How did we get here? The last time that you heard my voice on this here pod, on this here cast, was before January 24th, 2021. Now, why is that such an important date? Where the hell have I been? What the F happened? Said no one. Well, let me catch you up. On that day in January 24th, 2021, my wife sat me down on our couch in our condo, I guess, townhouse. Yeah, townhouse rental. And she said to me, I want a divorce. And, yeah, so a lot of my family and friends know that that's the case. But for anyone out there who doesn't know, that's the 411. That's the lowdown. Now, initially, you hear something like that, and it's something that we had discussed, playing around with the idea, not really sure about where those discussions would lead. Ultimately, in the back of my head, I always thought it's a rough patch. As my dad and mom would always say, it's temporary, baby. It's tempo, right? This too shall pass. Gandalf, Lord of the Rings, I think. No. Temporary. Your struggles are temporary. Your pain is temporary. And you will get through this, as my grandfather would say. Better times are coming. And we had been going through a rough patch. The timeline on that rough patch, how long that rough patch was, depends on who you ask, I guess. When your wife says we've been married 3 years and you've been happy maybe 3 months out of those 3 years, it's like a little bit of an eye opener. But on that couch, when she told me I would like a divorce, kind of went into shock because this is not like an empty threat. This doesn't feel like something, we're not in the middle of a heated argument. We're not in the middle of a fight. This is not like an ultimatum or anything. It was just like her mind's made up. That's pretty much it, right? So I was in shock. It took me a little bit to kind of wrap my head around it to have it sink in. I don't think it still has sunken in. It feels like there's a blip in the timeline. And that's basically what happened to me over the past year. There's a blip, and I feel like I'm just now starting to come back. I blew away in a cloud of ashes. Thanos snapped his thumb. And instead of 5 years, it was like I was on the temporary, the abridged version of the blip. The bleh. It was a year. And I've done a lot of research on this. I've looked into it a lot. I've read all the articles, and I went through all the stages of grief. I'm still going through the stages of grief. I don't think you ever really get through all the stages of grief. There's heartbreak, there's denial, there's anger, there's bargaining. I did all that. I can cross all those off the checklist because I went through every single stage, every single step of grief. There was denial. There was bargaining, for sure. There was definitely anger. And it took me a few days of looking into, like, why do people get divorced? What drives them to dissolve a marriage, especially when you have a 2-year-old at the time? Why, when it seems like the foundation is just being set, do you feel compelled to just tear it all down, to just stop construction and walk away. And there's not one reason, and listen, this goddamn pandemic ain't doing anyone favors except the pharma companies and people who know how to work the stock market, I guess. I'm drinking, I think it's called 14 Hands. It's like a red blend. I also got 19 Crimes, that Snoop Dogg wine, Cali Red blend or something like that. Both of them are phenomenal. And I didn't realize how close they are into names until just now. 19 Crimes, 14 Hands. I would assume that, yeah, you could probably commit 19 crimes with 14 hands. That seems like a pretty good ratio of crime to hands. So have I committed 19 crimes with 14 hands? No, I only got 2 hands. There's only one crime. It was a crime of passion. No, what the hell? We're getting off topic here. So there was denial, right? And for the first week, that's all I thought about. That's all I could think about was your mind spirals. I was spiraling. So it goes to dark places. At least my mind does. It's very toxic in there. Don't recommend it. Don't recommend the stroll through the old bean. It's got a lot of major cleanup to do in every aisle. But it was, I just came across an article that said 15 reasons not to divorce. And what ultimately stuck out to me was commitment, right? And I know for people who knew me in my 20s and even into my early 30s, commitment wasn't a thing. And I don't know that it was a fear. Yeah, it probably was a fear. But, my longest relationship was maybe 14 months. It seemed like anytime there was a challenge or an obstacle or our first big fight, a conflict over my dating history, I pulled the cord, pulled the chute and bailed. It was just like, yeah, there should never ever be fighting. We should get along like peas in a pod. You're a pea, I'm a pea. Let's pea it up together. And any remote sign or signal of any kind of smoke or a red flag, a rosé flag, a pink flag, an orange flag, it was just like tuck your tail and run. This isn't working. You got to get out of here. I was dumped. My first girlfriend, I've said it before on the pod. It was freshman year in college. I didn't have a girlfriend. I mean, I guess I technically, I don't know. I would say I had a girlfriend in high school. We didn't do anything. Okay. And that's why she ultimately broke up with me. But it was like, are we even together? It was a very ambiguous type thing, very vague, which I'm not great at handling. And that's been evident over the course of the pandemic with so many question marks and so many things up in the air. Just, oof. Anyway, so commitment to me was like, for me to commit, okay, I guess is the point here. For me to commit, it's gotta be big. It's gotta be huge. It's gotta be right. And I felt that with my wife. And I was so sure of myself, which, if you know me, is not like me. I'm never sure of myself, constantly doubting, mired in self-doubt and insecurity. Probably because anytime I've shown any kind of cockiness or confidence, it has backfired big time. Right back in the old grill, right in the schnoz. So I committed. And when I proposed, I committed. And when I walked down that aisle and I put the ring on her finger and I said my vows, it was a commitment. And I wanted to honor that commitment. And I thought, okay, you know what? You messed up. You messed up a lot in your life. But this seems salvageable. This is like, come on. We're less than 5 years into this thing. This is like a minor, it's like half of a chapter in a book. You figure if I can somehow eke it out to in my 80s and 90s, you're looking at 40 years, 50 years of marriage. 4 years out of 40 or 50, you're looking at like 10% of the marriage. That's nothing. So it was really about trying to talk it out a little bit more. And, I'd been kind of suspicious that we were heading down that route for a while. I would say 2019 was 2018 mean, the entire marriage, I had job problems. It was, there's an issue with compartmentalization, the ability to separate work from your personal life, the ability to remove yourself from one emotional state that's related to something and not carrying it over to someone else or some other activity or interaction, just like leaving things at the door, picking things up where they left off. And my inability to do that ultimately corroded the relationship, right? It's like the acid that the alien spits in the movie Alien, directed by James Cameron. He spits that acid. And so like that acid, the acid that I spit wasn't as caustic, right? It wasn't, didn't burn right a hole in the floor or the wall, but it slowly ate away at the relationship because of my frustration. And frustration is born out of what? Expectation versus reality. And what stinks about this whole journey is, well, I guess the positive side, the pro is it's a learning experience, right? And you're better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all, right? That whole cliche. It's just still tough to swallow. It's still tough to know all the things that you should be doing and reading all the advice columns and articles and guides and all that crap and having it in your head, but not knowing either how to apply it in your life or just not having the wherewithal to kind of like access that part of your brain as it's going on in the heat of the moment, All I can say is this: my wife is very successful. She is a self-proclaimed alpha, which I would agree with. I'm pretty much a beta in a lot of ways. I'm passive aggressive. I have a lot of negative qualities about me. She has a lot of positive qualities. And her work path, her career, with the same firm for 9 years or something like that, 10 years, made her way up to partner at one point, which is just insane. As at the time, I think she was 30 something, early 30s, to go to another job and see the success only continue and just stacking cash. Basically is the crass way to put it. She just earned and burned and burned in more ways than one. The new job, which I believe she started in either 2019 or 2020, right as you can almost visualize the data here, the graph, right? The bar graph it's not pie chart, but the bar graph, right? If you were to look at it, it's like, okay, Cassie's on the up and to the right and Neal's on the down to the right, and I think that takes a toll on the relationship because as much as I didn't want to admit it, I don't know that I was ever jealous of her success. I was very proud of her, but the new job was pretty brutal in terms of her work schedule, working on weekends, working late hours, and not being able to have that quality time together, which is so crucial, and the time that I did spend with her, I come home from work and I just got to dump everything on her and I got to vent. And this one said this, and this one gave me the eye, and this, it's just every day it was something. And a lot of it's in my head. I realize that now, it takes a lot of reflection, self-introspection, whatever you want to call it. And taking a look at everything that's happened and saying to myself, okay, I am the problem. That's not everyone else is the problem. I am the problem. How do I go about addressing this problem and making it so that people can tolerate me, I guess, is the best way to put it. So, but I really focused in on commitment. And, she is my purpose. My daughter's my purpose. Like I said in my vows, I found my purpose. It was to serve another. It was to serve my wife. And I wasn't doing that, at least not to her expectations. I thought, okay, well, I'm not a drug addict. I do drink, but it has not really, and I know this sounds like the words of an alcoholic, but I am a functioning alcoholic, right? I feel like I can drink like a fish on the weekends, and then during the week I can handle my biz. But I don't think that was ever an issue. I mean, I get drunk. I don't fight. I love. That's who I am. So I'm not a smoker. I'm not physically abusive, not cheating. All the major kind of big ones that you hear about that are usually the major causes of a divorce, I wasn't doing. And so I thought, I'm a good husband because I wasn't doing any of those things. And it's like, well, no, it's the little things that you miss on a daily basis that kind of add up and add up and add up and add up. And I thought to myself, well, there's still time. What's the rush? You're a good mother. I'm a good father. And we've gotten away from the intimacy part of our relationship. But I've been pitching you on getting away and reconnecting and making sure we have a date night. And I put together a plan. I put together, I called it the recommitment plan. It passed Senate with flying colors. The Congress or the House gave me a lot of trouble. But, the recommitment plan, it was, and the reason why you haven't heard me in a year or seen me in a year was spending more quality time with my child, with our child, and with my wife. And to do that, I'd have to make some concessions. I'd have to make some sacrifices. I'd have to cut some things out of my life, And so the first thing is no more podcasts, because it's a time, I don't want to say time suck. It's an investment, I was putting out 2-3 hour long episodes that cover so many freaking topics that I would love to meet the person who listened to every single minute of every single ep. Because I don't know, maybe you're, if one person gets something out of it, then it's worth it. But 2-3 hours record, another hour to edit, which that's on the short side. I should be editing more. But then trying to put out the videos from it, splicing those up, cutting those up, syncing the audio with the video, making sure that the color correction, the lighting, everything was kosher, right? It's a lot of time. 2-3 hours plus another hour plus 2-3 hours of prep plus you're essentially losing a day, a full time job day, 8+ hours a week working on this podcast that is not exactly skyrocketing up the charts. So from her perspective, it's like you're spinning your wheels. You're working on this thing that is, you say it right in the intro, it's sloppy, but it's sloppy and you're not getting anywhere with it. You're not getting more followers, subscribers, blah, blah, blah. You're not blowing up, shit. People don't want to hear this shit. It's like, all right, I hear you. And she was right. So that was the first thing I said was more quality time together, date nights. We talked about the love languages and took personality tests and like all this stuff that I guess you should do before you get married. But like, everything was pointing to that she was the love of my life and that she was right for me, but I was not right for her, which is an interesting place to be. I've been there before with other women. I'd say the majority of other women who I thought, okay, this is going to boyfriend girlfriend status. And I'm thinking I'm already viewing the other person as my partner, as my girlfriend. And the woman is like, who the fuck is this dude? Why, God? So I get it. There's a tendency to, there's no, as my mom says, you're a black and white person and that's, and that's not good. 50 Shades of Gray. I got to get in them 50 shades and play around a little bit. The red room. All right. That went off on a tangent. I don't know what I'm talking about. What I am saying is that either overcommit or undercommit. I either over communicate or under communicate. There's just no moderation. There's no happy medium. So I got to work on that. And so I came up with this plan, recommitment plan. And that included, I gotta make more time. And to make more time, I got to cut some stuff out and the podcast had to go. So I pitched my plan. And after taking all these personality quizzes and tests and assessments and studying the love languages and all that, it's like, okay, You don't respond to gifts. You don't respond to words. You don't respond to touch. You respond to acts of service. And so that was what my MO was. It was like the mantra I kept repeating in my head that I wrote down was, hey, let me do that for you. Hey, let me do that for you. Hey, let me do that for you. Being more cognizant, being more aware of the situation, not being so engrossed in my computer or on my phone, removing myself from that kind of a situation or environment and being more in tune with my daughter and my wife, which is tough for me because I've discovered that I have one of the worst personalities on the planet Earth. I can't tell you how bittersweet that journey was, because it's like, okay, you know what? Who am I? Who am I? So who am I, right? I thought I knew myself. I thought I was this type of person doing these kind of things, and this is my path. And then you take these assessments, these quizzes, and these tests, and I took them all, baby. And it was like, you are an INTP. I guess it's the Briggs-Myers, quotient formula. And it says INTP. So if you know what this is, congrats, you pass. Certificates in the mail. If you don't, INTP. So the first one is either E or I, and that's extrovert or introvert. And a lot of people, I think, on the surface, who have hung out with me at a bar or at a party, have seen me in a social situation where I've bent a few elbows, who've seen my stand-up comedy, who do this kind of shit, a podcast with video, would say I'm an extrovert. I'm an E. Turns out, no, I'm an introvert. And a lot of people have a preconception of an introvert as someone that's a wallflower, that's super shy, doesn't talk, keeps themselves, and doesn't want to interact with people or anything like that. And it's just completely not the case. Extroverts get their energy, motivation, what have you, from other people. It comes externally. Extrovert comes from other people. Their mood, energy, desire, drive, whatever, what have you, driven by the energy in the room, the vibes, if you will. They pick up on other people, and if they're feeling it, they get into it, and that's how they go about their day. Introverts get their energy, motivation, drive, what have you, from inside, internal. And that's me to a T. I'm constantly, the brain will not shut off. I didn't fall asleep to fucking 3 a.m. last night. I was sitting there late in bed at 2 a.m, and I was like, I couldn't even close my eyes if I tried. Tried taping them, gluing them, staple, no dice. I get my energy from myself. I'm self-driven, self-motivated. And if you know me, you've come across me, I can come across as a pretty lazy person. And it takes a lot to motivate me because it has to come from me. I don't know that I can get other people. Now, do I succumb to peer pressure? All the time, dude. All the time. But I'm an introvert, so that's the I. N is a little bit of a curveball. Intuitive. So going based off intuition versus, I guess, what the hell is the other one? I guess it would be F, feeling. Or maybe that's the next one. So that's N, intuition. Then you have INTP, thinking versus feeling. I'm a thinker, not a feeler. When all these things are not great. And it's good to find out about them. But then you start to dig into that personality type a little bit more, and you're like, wow, I am not, the cards are stacked against me on this one. And then P, or J, is the last one, and I'm a P, which is perceiving versus judging. And I know my soon-to-be ex-wife would probably say I'm a J and that I judge too much, but I perceive. And I try my damnedest not to pass judgment. That's a tough one. I kind of waver back and forth. But INTP. And it's like, okay, I think I have a better understanding about who I am, what I need to work on, and how that works. And then you look at like, okay, the best jobs and careers for INTPs, the earning potential of INTPs. And it's like, it is dire. It's not great. And so I kind of look at my career, which is coming up on 20 years now in the workforce. I'm at 17-ish right now, 18. And it's like, whew, no wonder it's been an uphill battle. Your personality just doesn't cut it. and it's time to stop playing the victim, stop playing the victim. And so we would take these quizzes and test assessments, and she would say her love language is this, and I would say my love language is affirmation and touch. I don't give a shit about gifts either. If we don't have to exchange gifts for the rest of our lives, I am cool with that. Every Christmas, I get asked, what do you want for Christmas? And I say, nothing. Absolutely nothing. So hers was acts of service. Mine was words and touch. And that's where, so she had been talking about our differences for quite a long time leading up to this ultimate decision on her part on this date last year. Was the differences are too much. The differences are irreconcilable. And there it is. There's the reason. Irreconcilable differences, which is probably the most popular citation for the dissolution of marriage. I personally think, and if she hears this, she will scoff her tits off, but I was willing to work on it. Yes, there was a period in 2019 and 2020 where I hit a wall and I was frustrated because I thought, why isn't my wife supporting me? I come home, I try and tell her things. She's always taking the other person's side. She's always looking at it from the other person's angle. And why can't she just say, that sucks, but we'll get through it. I hope you feel better and give me a hug. Why can't that be the case? Why? And I think she just got fed up and tired to the point where she didn't want to talk about work anymore. How was your day? Well, my day was 8 hours spending at, 3 to 4 hours of commuting, which sucks. And then 8 hours of work with people that I don't think are going to be, at my retirement party. By the way, retirement, that's a farce. So yeah. Meanwhile, she's loving her job. And, even though it's stressful and long hours and all that, she has people at work that she can confide in, confidants. Her best friend works at this position. So, they can talk to each other nonstop. And they did. The friend would come over and we would hang out and they would talk about work and it would be fine. I would be fine with it because, yeah, they're bitching and complaining sometimes, but they're also telling some funny stories mixed in. And to be honest, it's a relief to hear someone else not happy with their job. It's like, okay, I'm not alone in this. I get it. Most people don't like their jobs. But, the way I approached it was too maybe aggressive, assertive, too negative, wasn't something that she wanted to partake in anymore. So there was that aspect of it. There was me getting burnt out in January of 2020, 2 years ago, and me coming to her after being at my job for 2 months and being like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm completely burnt out and I've only been here 2 months and it's only getting worse. And at that point, she decided that she had taken a couple other routes and this time she would take the tough love approach. And be like, tough shit, you can't quit. I can't bear the responsibility of our finances, etc. And you're probably saying, Neil, why are you airing all your dirty laundry? I'm not airing it all. But I do want to give you some idea that, no, this didn't come out of the blue. But that said, it still is shocking. It still is. And I chose to immediately place the blame somewhere else when she told me. I blame the pandemic. And I said, once this shit's over, we're going to get back to normal. Our version of normal, not this new normal nonsense. We're going to get back to normal. We're going to be able to go see our friends. We're going to be able to travel, have date nights, go on vacations together instead of this weird, like the summer's very weird because it's like everyone feels like it's over and it's gone. And so we kind of let loose and, because it's warm out and everyone's outside and it seems like things are on the up and up, and then winter comes back around and just smacks everyone right across the lips. So I said that. I was like, you can't begin to measure the impact that the pandemic has had on our relationship. I guess some relationships thrived because you get to spend more time with your significant other, and the more time together, the more you get to connect, etc. But when there's a 2-year-old in the mix and that 2-year-old can't go to daycare and you both have full-time jobs, it's rough. It sucks. And so January 2020, that's when it was a turning point for me, because it was like, what's going on here? Like, I think if the tables were turned, and I might have said this, if the tables were turned, I would be more than willing to let you walk away from your position, and we would find a way. We would make it work. And we'd already been down that road before, sort of, right when, probably 5 months before I was supposed to, we were supposed to get married. I said, I can't do this anymore. And she did, say, all right. And I walked away. And that was a long 13-month stretch where I got, there was a lot of low points where, I'm coming into a guy's office, video production studio with a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. And the guy wants me to work for free at the age of 36. I think I was at the time, 35, 36. That's like, it's a tough one to swallow. So 2019, I'd say I had a pretty rough go of it. And I think that really opened her eyes. And, I think I've since found out that I think there was one, when I was essentially promised full-time extension at a position, and then 2 days before my term is up and I thought I was going to get renewed, they said, you know what, we're going to go a different direction. I was just like, oh man, the records I set for you, the records I broken, does that count at all? Like all-time revenue, all-time views, all-time this, all-time that, does that count? Come on now. But there's a bottom line, and then there's the I don't even know what you would call it, the invisible line, I guess, where you can have all the hard skills in the world and you can put up monster numbers, but there's a limit to what people can tolerate and withstand when it comes to soft skills, behavior, attitude, etc., tone, demeanor. And it never really crossed my mind. It was always like, well, this is my job. I want to do this job well, and that job means more X, and that X being dollars, numbers, metrics. It was never, well, you made this person happy. You made this person feel valued and worthwhile. You made this person feel heard or understood. Just never really was a major priority. I didn't think it was a thing in jobs. I thought it was like, you do your work, come in, you put in your hours, you do your work, you do it to the best of your abilities. I always try, and this is a downfall of mine, is like, and I hear it all the time, work smarter, not harder. I was a hard worker, but people don't want a hard worker. They want a smart worker. Someone who actually, I don't know, respects boundaries. I know it sounds pretty graphic, but it's not like I wasn't going around knocking like people's pencils off their desks. It was just not making the effort to build and foster and develop relationships. Although I would say at Full Screen, where I worked prior to my current job, I had the opportunity to manage a team of people, and I had them say, like, they hadn't had a ton of bosses, but they said, you're the best boss or manager I've ever had. But that doesn't translate. The big takeaway there was perception is reality. And the perception is you're this way because of the way you interact with these people, but those people don't see how you interact with your team. It's unfortunate, but it happens. So that's the recommitment plan. It was acts of service. Let me do that for you. Let me get that for you. I'm going to pick up Bree from school. I'm going to drop her off from school. I'm going to get the groceries. I'm going to do the dishes. I'm going to do everything I can possible to show you that it is possible. And that I am more aware and I am more cognizant. And I'm sorry for the way I've acted, but too little, too late. I think I got maybe 2 months into this plan, and she doubled down, sat me down probably closer to the end of March of last year and said, nope, it's just not working for me. I appreciate what you've done. I never said that I was going to change my mind. And I said that when you came to me with this plan, that I'm probably not going to change my mind. That if you want to do this for you, for your own personal growth, great, but don't do it for me. And ultimately it was like too little too late. and she harbors too much resentment for what I put her through for most of the marriage. It's tough to hear. And it's like, I don't want to. This is not a prison. It's not a jail. I'm not the warden. I'm not a guard. I'm not holding you hostage. That's not happening. That's the first thing I said. Was like, I don't want to hold you hostage. If you don't want to be part of this marriage and you honestly don't see this getting any better, I'm not going to force you to stay or force you to go through this. But I felt like 2 months was not enough time. Now, the issue is when she first, so 2019, we had the incident. And when I say incident, I don't want to get into details, but it wasn't anything. There were no police called. I don't know if that makes you feel any better, but, it was not a very proud moment in my life where, I let my emotions get the best of me. And so that, I think that scared her a little bit, a lot, to the point where she, has said that she wanted stability and she felt that she wanted consistency, reliability, and those all file under the category of trust, right? Can I trust you to make the right decision? Can I trust you to not let your emotions get the best of you to use, which is interesting because if I view most things through, my personality, I view most things through the lens of logic and rationale, then how am I letting these emotions get the best of me? Don't let them get your goat. That's what my dad would always say. Don't let them get your goat. I don't have a goat, Dad. I almost would like a goat, because I think I would sick the goat on these MFers who keep bullying me at school. I digress. So, too little, too late, harbored too much resentment. We're going to be better off. We're going to be better off. We're going to be better off. And I still disagree to this day. But what she kept saying to me throughout this is that she's changed. Marriage has changed her, but becoming a mother has changed her the most. And yeah, I mean, there was definitely a change, a pivot. Some have, said to me, oh, well, it could be postpartum. And postpartum apparently can last like 3 years, which is bananas. But I can't bring myself to believe that's it. That's the cause. So I had her and I lost her. And, she said she wanted to stay friends, and I just can't. I've never been that kind of guy. I've never been the kind of guy that can do that. It's not in me to do it. In my mind, it's like I always looked at her as my best friend. Sorry to the various dudes over my lifetime who I've pretty much filed away as best friends. But I looked at her as my best friend because of what I was able to, the emotions that I was able to share with her, and the amount of, vulnerable, the V word. God, I sound like I'm on The Bachelor, her favorite show. So, 2019 was the incident where I think she saw my reaction to something, and that convinced her that I was not, I guess, suitable, capable, whatever, of the kind of growth or the kind of environment that she needed in order to feel comfortable and safe. Mental breakdown, is that safe to say? I don't know if a mental breakdown is the right way to say it, but it was, I was very lost and very confused. I'll say that. And I felt like I wasn't getting the support that I needed at that time. And in her eyes, I think she was like, I have been supporting you nonstop for 3 years plus, more than 3 years. So yeah, I can see that perspective. 2020 rolls around, we have that talk where I'm burnt out in January, and then this goddamn pandemic hit in March. And the week that it hit, she puts she finds in some Facebook group that someone's looking to buy a house in our district. And we had talks about, do we really want to be in the New York metropolitan area? Can we move somewhere else? We can move at that point. We're like, we can move anywhere. We just don't want to have to deal with the commute into the city anymore. And is it worth it to commute into the city anymore? We can do our jobs from home. I've proven myself. She's proven herself as, definitely, can work from home. So the options are limitless or endless. And I went on a wild goose chase putting together spreadsheets of all the places that we could live, looking at lists and niche.com or whatever it's called, seeing like the best suburban areas and walkability scores and school grade, like all that crap. And we sold the house. And in my back of my head, I was like, I think this is the right move. Damn, this happened fast. Took us less than a month, I think, to like close the deal. But we had talked to our parents, and our parents had said, yeah, I mean, if you're not, you don't see yourself in this place 20, 30 years down the road, which I did when we first bought it. I was like, this is the forever house. That's where the kids are going to have their little sleepovers away from the house. And like they can go there, and when they're teenagers, they'll drink beers and smoke pot. You know, they didn't want us to find out. Or we can revamp the basement, and that can be like, you know, I don't want to say my man cave, but a den where people can go hang out and watch the game and get out of everyone's hair. And then 2 years of trying to find a landscaper and just people to help us fix the house, because it was just like every time you turn around, there's some little thing that's off. Like all the windows are different sizes. They're not the same size across the board. There's no electricity running to the garage. There's the sliding glass door lets a draft in, so our heat is higher than, you know, I mean, it's like, but that's being a homeowner, you know? I was viewing it as like, oh my God, I'm in the movie The Money Pit with Tom Hanks. And it's like, no, you're just a homeowner. Like these are all normal things that homeowners do. Sack up and tackle it one by one. So putting the house on the market, that to me was like, okay, this feels like the first step in a series of steps toward a divorce. Yeah. And then I think in April 2020, she said we need to start seeing a therapist. And I thought, okay, that's step number 2 in the series of steps towards a divorce. And in my head, it's like, has anyone gone to a marriage counselor and had it work out where it did not end in divorce? And my mom was telling me, oh, well, your father had a coworker who him and his wife went to marriage counseling for years, 9, 10 plus years. And it turns out that she discovered she was gay. Like, okay. It's a lot of money to pump into that relationship only to realize, well, this was never au naturel to begin with. So, and I don't want to, listen, my personal experiences with counseling and therapy have not gone well. And maybe that's because of how I'm framing it, how I'm approaching it, my outlook, you know, just my personal experiences have sucked with it. And I don't know, maybe it's just finding the right person to talk to and vibe with and jive with. Cause like, I just haven't found it yet, but she did find someone, and she eventually convinced me to do it, to talk with this therapist, and it did not go well. It felt like they were ganging up on me and like everything's my fault. And I'm just like, oh, I got to do this every week or every other week, where it's just like, it's the shit on Neil show. Like I already do enough of that in my own head every waking minute, and sometimes in my dreams. So I don't know if I want like this to be a common occurrence, like a tradition. So I did not get along with this counselor, and I eventually got to the point where it felt like she was antagonizing me at one point, because it was like we would sit down in these joint sessions. And it'd be like, all right, let's gang up on Neil. And then, and I'm sure that's my own like irrational thoughts, even though I like to look at things rationally. But yeah, it was just like, and I was like, why is it every time we end these sessions, I don't feel better. I feel angrier. I feel angry at this counselor. And so then it was decided, okay, we're not going to do these joint sessions. We're going to now do individual sessions, one-on-one with this therapist. So I was like, all right, I'll do that. Whatever it takes, I guess. And then the one-on-one session, and I always thought that money was not going to be, because money is always an issue. It's just like money, boom, boom, boom. It's always an issue. No matter, you're like, oh, well, knowing how much my wife makes, it's a decent amount. It's a good amount. I think a lot of people would like to make what she makes. I'm not going to reveal it, But, I know that I didn't have that kind of money when I was growing up. And money was a situation, even though on the outside it looked like, oh, look, it's, they have the Saab and the Navigator and the pool. It's like, well, we're also like so deep in debt across the board that's almost insurmountable, So, money, and that's why I would say I'm pretty, unless you get a couple, 3 dozen cocktails in the system, I'm very money conscious, budget conscious in terms of like, all right, I want to get the best deal possible. And I don't care if that takes me 3 days of cost referencing, cross verifying, and spreadsheets and all that stuff. I need to make sure I'm making the right decision for the right amount of money. And it came down to September, October 2020 was pretty bad. And it came down to a money situation where I felt like there were some grumblings at work about a reorg, and it was like, I think the axe is going to fall pretty soon because there's talk about restructuring and how that's going to look in the shift. But I think our team is so imperative to the dynamic and the structure of the company that like, there's no way that they'd get rid of us. And but then it was like more and more little signs and indicators of like, okay. And the only other opportunity I had at the time was this opportunity that was not as fruitful. I'll say that, not as many clams. Okay. There was a dough shortage, but it's like beggars can't be choosers. All right. I've been unemployed and trying to look for work and it does not go as well as when you are employed. So it's like, despite her reservations about the position, I wanted to move forward with it. And that really upset her because it wasn't in line with her financial plan, which is to retire early, which is a great plan to have, tough to achieve. So I got into it with the therapist about that job and the position and the salary and trying to reason with her. And it just felt like she was constantly taking Cassie's side. And eventually got to the point where I just couldn't bring myself to talk anymore. And I didn't feel like the conversation was progressing in a positive way at all. It didn't feel constructive. It just felt like another thing that I'm doing wrong. And the woman's like started kind of like baiting me and I don't know, didn't feel very professional. So I went to Cass and I said, I think I'm done with this woman. I don't really want to talk to her anymore. She just, I don't know what it is, but we're just like, and she's like, and Cassie said, well, that's her method. Brings out the best in her patients, or it forces them to come to terms, blah, blah. And I'm just like, okay, I guess. I just feel like crap every single time. But I stopped booking appointments and stopped going. And to Cassie, that was like, all right, he's given up on the relationship. I tried. He doesn't want to work on it. The issue is I looked into this broad, and I feel like I can use the word broad here. I looked into her. She's already told us she's divorced and that she's best friends with her ex-husband. Well, congratulations. That doesn't happen often. And so she's divorced, and she is a divorce mediator. She's not really a marriage counselor. She's a divorce mediator. So in my head, I'm thinking this woman is preparing us for divorce. She is clearing the tarmac. She's rolling out the red carpet on the runway towards divorce. She is not interested in trying to repair this marriage or help us to repair this marriage. She is interested in leading a horse to water, and that water is going to be split, divided accordingly between husband and wife, or former husband, former wife. So that really upset me, and that really pissed me off. And then it was, well, you got to find a therapist for you personally. This is my wife talking. You find a therapist for you. I'm going to keep talking to this therapist, and then we're going to find another therapist to do joint sessions for a marriage. And at that point, it's like, oh my God. Oh my God. And I was like, I'll do it, but it just feels like a lot of talking and not a lot of progress. So yeah, I mean, even though, and that's what's tough, I think, for people to understand, and something that I know I need to work on. But a lot of times I'll be resistant, and I'll be like, oh, and I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll sigh and I'll be like, oh, and I'll groan. but I'll do it. I will do it, and I'll try. And I've never viewed myself as a quitter. I've always viewed, I've only quit. I can count on less than one hand, a little person's hand, a baby hand, Jason Pierre-Paul's hand, Jason JPP's hand. I can count. There are times that I just quit. And so despite, the perception that I don't care, apathetic, negative, pessimistic, and I've said this about my fandom for the Giants and the Mets, no matter how down I get on them, there's always a light at the tunnel. I always see there's moves to be made. There's wins to be had. There's championships to win, trophies to raise. And so I felt that way about our marriage, even to the bitter end. So we're not officially divorced at this point. March 2021 rolls around. She doubles down, reconfirms, reiterates, not going to happen. And so we started mediation in June. And I tell you, from the end of March, our lease at our apartment ended mid-November, November 13th. And I made it a point of listen, going back to the theme of this episode, it's all temporary. We can live with each other and be civil and polite. And we can run out the time on this lease together in this apartment, then we can go our separate ways. And it was so March to November. It's April is 7 months, a little less than 7 months. Boy, those 7 months were a grind, because being with someone that doesn't want to talk to you, that doesn't love you anymore, that is so ready to get the hell out of this relationship and start their own new life. And I get to personally bear witness to her getting in the best shape of her life, on the Peloton, working her ass off, dieting, doing keto, and losing a ton, not a ton of weight, but down to the weight she was in college, and looking great, and buying all these new fancy clothes, and showing off. And it's just that's no longer for me. I know that's a very, I don't know, toxic way to think about patriarchal, whatever woke nonsense. But it was that's not for me anymore. And I understand that's probably for her, but it's also probably for someone else. And that was tough. Sleeping on the couch, that sucked. That really sucked. I just couldn't bring myself to sleep in the same bed. A lot of people were like, well, you're bananas for even staying in the same apartment with her. You guys need to be separated. Separate yourselves. But I just slept on the couch. That was brutal for months. And then eventually I caved and bought a mattress, moved that into the alcove of the office where she was working. So she moved her desk into what became her bedroom. And 7 months. Mediation was god awful. And I could listen. I know I got to go to anger management. I mean, that's a foregone conclusion at this point. Anyone who knows me and anyone who's listened to this here pod, I got to go to anger management because I could not stand our mediator. It just felt like no matter how unreasonable things got, he would react as if they were reasonable. What? No. Dude, really? Really? Come on. So many of argument, many disagreement. And I would say that's where things got real bad, was the first week in June. And then from June through November 13th. So you're looking at a good 5 months of just it felt like all out warfare. I mean, we actually, spent Memorial Day weekend together down at the shore, Point Pleasant. And, the weather didn't cooperate, but it was all right, this isn't so bad. We're staying in separate bedrooms. We're still able to have fun with our daughter. Everything feels like it's okay and that we're going to make it through this thing all right, I guess. And then after the first mediation session, there was a little bit of a surprise at the end from our mediator. And it was just all went to hell. I had to hire a lawyer. She had to hire a lawyer. And just a lot of conversations with my lawyer, and the mediator just eventually gave up. He's like, I can't do this anymore. He's like, I've I thought you guys, I was surprised when I saw you two in the same room on our Zoom calls. And I thought that was a good sign. And then it was like, that was the last time we were in the same room on the same Zoom, because it just devolved from there and regressed, and still haven't finalized it, but it feels like we're right at the point where we're both going to sign. But you're talking about June to January, 7 months of just negotiating. Everything is a negotiation. Everything. I mean, trying to prognosticate, look in the crystal ball and figure out what the hell's going to happen 10 years down the road. It's mind blowing, but we're almost there. And, people ask me, why are you still wearing the ring? I'm still wearing the ring. I don't know. I just feel like I go back to the commitment thing. I made a commitment. We're still technically married. November 13th came. We both moved to the Princeton area. I moved into my own 2-bedroom apartment. She moved into her own townhouse, whatever, that's like bigger than the one. It looks bigger. I don't know. I haven't really gone inside, but it certainly looks and feels bigger than what we had at the townhouse in Fairfield. But I'm in a 2-bedroom apartment, and I call it my sad dad pad. That was tough the first time I walked into this apartment. It was just like, okay, this is different, and it's going to take some work. And then I remember I put up my fake tree, artificial tree, whatever. So I like fake trees, whatever. It's more out of the fact that I can spend less. It's a budget thing, more economical. It's frugal. You buy the fake tree. Sure, it doesn't look as nice as the real tree, but it lasts longer, right? You just pull it out every year. You don't have to go out and find it and then get fucking pine needles all over your apartment and dogs lapping up the tree water, and there's a squirrel in there and it catches on fire, and then Uncle Milton's toupee is no. So, but then I put up the artificial tree because I couldn't find the stand for the old tree. And I put it up, and it looked exactly like the fucking tree from Charlie Brown's Christmas. Just Google it. And I was like, oh my God, I don't even have a couch. We had to give away our couch. Trying to sell the couch was like impossible. I remember buying that couch for like 800 bones, 900 bones. I listed it for 200, and eventually I just kept bringing down the price. Like trying to sell things online. I don't know when we sold our house, Cass was like on top of it. She was selling things left and right. It was unreal. We got rid of so much crap in such a short amount of time, and we got money for it. And I thought I could do the same, and I did not. I ended up having to give away everything for nothing. It got to the point where it's like, well, of course we've had this crib for 3 years, and like the week that I'm gonna finally put it up for sale, I sit on it, and then Bree jumps on me and I bend the frame, and it's like, you gotta be kidding me. So that got $0 for me. The couch got $0 for me. I eventually just put out all the baby's things, because we don't need it anymore. We're not having another baby, and no one wants to take used baby stuff or buy used baby stuff most of the time. I just put it out on the front porch with a sign on the door. Is like, have at it, Hoss. I'm not a good salesman. I just don't know how to sell, apparently. I had a very thorough description. Pictures were nice, well lit, well composed, well framed, but nope, no dice. So I'm in my sad dad pad. If I post this video, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's like, I still have the beer pong desk, and now it's not facing the window because the window is too low to the ground. So it's like, I don't want to, and psychologically, it's a psychological thing. Like, you see the window behind me, see how the windowsill is kind of low. That would come up to like halfway up the desk. And it's a psychological thing. Maybe I do have OCD. I don't know. But yeah. It's been interesting because we're now doing even though, the divorce is not finalized yet, we are separated. And so we're doing this shared custody 50-50 with Bree. So it's, we decided to do the 2-2-3 alternating. So I always get Wednesdays and Thursdays and then every other weekend. So now I have time to do the pod. Right out the gate, bringing those black clouds and that rain and that blues, them blues. But, you know, as my mom says, it's a new beginning, right? I'm not gonna say new year, new me, okay? Because it's not a new me. And there's a large part of me that's like, and if I do post this video, you'll see I have grown a beard, because why not? Even though we're in a pandemic, and I have read that beards are like the last thing that you should have on your face, because it all does is collect fecal matter and germs and bacteria. I'm like, of course it does. But I'm growing this beard for as long as I can, until I have an overwhelming consensus from my family and friends to cut it off. I need everyone to be on board with that. It can't just be like divided, red state, blue state. It has to be 100% across the board buy-in. You gotta cut it. You gotta shave it off. So, but I'm growing out the beard. And there are a lot of grays in there. You can see a lot of grays, which I think it's a badge of honor. It says, hey, I've been through some shit. These didn't come, these came for a reason. So let people know, hey, take it easy on the guy. Take it easy on him. He's a little stressed. So, that's about as thorough as I can be without giving away too much and pissing off a lot of people. I'm here, I'm a sad dad pad. I spent Thanksgiving with my family down in South Carolina. Didn't have Bree. Sucked, but then I had her for Christmas for that week. And so that was nice to have her, but it's also not great for the other parent. That's something that we have to live with. And it's something that is tough because my niece took a picture of all three of us when we went down for Christmas 2019. And it was a Polaroid picture, and it's us on Christmas morning, and we're all smiling and laughing, and Bree is obsessed. My daughter is obsessed with this picture and wants to know where it is at all time and carries it with her at all times. And I'm just like, oh my God, dude. Just stick a needle in my eye. Yeah. And then toss in Omicron into all that crap, into getting separated, moving, shared custody, coming on, before traveling down for Christmas, trying to get at-home tests, which this is how I'm going to end the episode, by the way. All these freaking ads, 24/7 nonstop, every commercial break, get tested. Doesn't matter if it's on TV, radio, outdoor advertising, on the train, on the bus, podcast. Like, it doesn't matter where you look, you will see someone telling you, get tested. Okay, dude, how, where, when? That's what I want to know, because I tried to get tested so hard the week before Christmas because I was traveling, and I didn't want to, if I have it, I'm not bringing that down there, no matter how much I want to see my family. And so ordered an at-home test on the Saturday before going down. It was second day air. It didn't arrive till Wednesday. I immediately took it, and this is the one where I think I have it right here. Do I? No. It was another one where you have to spit in it, which I thought was kind of cool. You spit in it, but you had to do it on a live Zoom call with a doctor. And so they have to watch you spit in it, and then you have to throw it right back in the package and find a drop box and send it right back out. And you'll get the results in 48 hours, which is like, okay, well, I guess if I'm still technically not on the plane by the time I get the results, everything should be good. And then ordered an at-home test through Roman. Get Roman, no free ads, but I get I'm 41, dude, so I'm getting the prostate shit, the heart stuff, all that good noise, testosterone, hair pills. It's just all the things that I would have if I actually ate right and worked out, but I don't, so I had to supplement with pills. So many pills. So ordered a test through there. That took forever. Didn't get here on time. Apparently it takes way too long to create a label. Every time I would check the status of these friggin' tests and when they're going to arrive, it was always label created. It's and label creation is no joke. I know that. It takes a lot of hard work and dedication. You can't just, wish it into existence. These handcrafted, homemade labels. But it turns out, nope, I don't have it. But then there's some news about how, well, oh, don't worry, but your brother-in-law has the flu. He tested negative for COVID, but he's positive for flu B, but he's getting over it. He should be all right by the time you come there. And I get there and he's like, he's still not over it. And everyone has a cough and everyone's sniffling. It's just like, what did I walk into? And sure enough, on day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, I got the flu big time, to the point where I slept for 2 days straight. In the middle of pandemonium, chaos, I slept for 2 days straight. I'm talking about my daughter, my niece and nephew, Royal Rumble, Battle Royale, every day, all day, nonstop fighting, yelling, crying. And I was just, I could not be fazed. It was like, it was too brutal. I was, yeah. So I lost two days, 2 solid days to this flu. And come home. Of course, my sister ended up getting tested for COVID. She got negative. The baby got tested for COVID, was negative. So I was like, I'm probably negative. If I'm being honest, probably negative. So I come home. The train ride, by the way, trying to get a 3-year-old on a train who's never been on a train before, it's tough. I'm not gonna lie. Had to take an Uber to the train station. The Uber doesn't have a car seat. You want to report me to the authorities? Go ahead. Had her on my lap, clutching onto her like, what's his name? The Iron Sheik, dude. It was camel clutching her in the back seat because there's no car seat. It's not a long ride. It's like 2 miles to the train station. You could tell the guy was very uneasy about it, but he went very slow. Then it's like I had these 2 monster bags with me, and at any time she could want to go to the bathroom and it could be chaos, you know? So of course she wants to go to the bathroom like 2 minutes before the train's supposed to come. I'm able to get it done. And then as I'm trying to hoard everything onto the train, she is on the platform like, nah, I'm all right. I don't think I'm going to do this. Sorry. And as I'm trying to I'm throwing bags onto the train, and I have to snatch her off the platform because they're like, doors closing, or like final call, whatever. A guy's like, hey, is this a train in New York? And it's like, at that point, you should get a free pass to be like, dude, pass. Like, come on, ask anyone else on this platform. I am trying to corral a toddler. And then we get on the train. And of course, this guy, Brielle is just like shaking in her little booties. Like, it just wants to sit in my lap, just doesn't ever want to let go of my face, because it's like, this is all very scary and new to her. And of course, this guy gets on, and I'm getting like a little vibe from him, like, okay. And he eventually comes up and just says, oh, she's so cute. Merry Christmas. We're like, Merry Christmas. And then he kind of walks down the stairs, but he's like hanging out. He's not going to sit down. And there's a lady making announcements on the PA of the speakers. And Brielle's like, what's that? Is that a lady? Where's the lady? And so the guy comes back up and he goes, did she just call me crazy? And I'm going, oh, here we go. How am I going to fight this dude with a 3-year-old on my hip? So I said, no. She was asking about the lady. Where's the lady who's making the announcements? And he was like, oh. He kind of wanders off and comes back, and he's holding out $1. And this dollar is not crisp. It's the opposite of crisp. It is wrinkle central. It is crinkly, wrinkly. And he's like, a little gift for her, a little gift. And I was like, oh, thank you. And she like reached out for it, and I immediately snatched it and put it in my pocket, because it's like, dude, come on. This is what's happening. There's a pandemic, and we're not getting out of this pandemic. Okay. So everyone just strap in, settle in. I keep saying when this pandemic's over, it's not over. It's never going to be over. Never. It's never going to be over. So I'm like, dude, no one's handling cash. No one's exchanging cash, because cash not only is the devil, but is covered in germs and bacteria and all that great. Just like my beard. So we shouldn't be like handing each other dollar bills, especially that dollar bill, which looks like it's been through several deals of the illegal variety. So that was fun. trying to like negotiate with a guy who thinks a 3-year-old's calling him crazy. And then coming back, or the plane ride there, you know, Brielle's been on the plane a bunch of times now, and she is getting better. She's not freaking out as much, which is nice. And this time she just immediately fell asleep in my lap, and I was like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Like daughter, like father, because, you know, I get on a plane and I just pass the F out. Snooze central, you know? So it's good that she just falls asleep. But it is a rough experience. I think I'd still rather drive the 10, 11, 12 hours overnight, no sleep, than have to go Uber onto a train, onto so once the train goes into Newark, we then have to get on these, whatever the hell they call it, the rail link, which is like the monorail from The Simpsons or Disney World at Epcot. And you take the monorail and trying to get her on that, because that was also scary to her. And she was not into it as much as I would have liked. So trying to like snatch her and get her on there. And people who, there were two kinds of people. One was the mother of like 4 who looks at me struggling with one and is just like, you P word, you vagine, gros assets, step it up, cowboy. And then there's the childless couple who like just, you can tell they're itching to just like get to where they're going, pop off the clothes and get down and dirty. And they don't want like a crying 3-year-old to to dampen their spirits. Yeah. And or the massive family. There was another group of people, the massive family. Like it's grandma, it's great grandma, it's ma, it's pa, it's cousin, it's children, and it's wheelchairs, luggage carts, and they all want to get in the elevator. And it's just like, oh my God, dude. Like, can we just rent the Madden Cruiser? R.I.P. Madden. Now I'm officially sad. So I come back after all that, run the gauntlet, hand over Bree, and then the school decides to send us a policy that I don't think was in the agreement. That was like, if a parent, there's like going through all the different scenarios of COVID, and like if this happens, do this, if this happens, do this. And the last scenario is, the guy calls it literally the doomsday scenario. And it's like, if a parent tests positive for COVID, that parent must isolate with the child for 10 days. Once the isolation period is over, then the child must isolate for 10 days. So on day 11 is day 1 of 10 for the child to isolate. And we were just like, no, no, I do not want. Decline, please. So that was fun going through that, and then trying to get another test. I had to get it tested at urgent care, and these ads, you know, say get tested, it's free. Get tested, it's free. I haven't had a free test yet. I feel like I've paid so much freaking money to get tested. I ordered another test from the USPS. We get the 4 free tests, still hasn't come yet. Whatever. We're so screwed. And then I had to get Brielle tested to go back to school. And that, because she's on my wife's insurance, and I wanted a rapid test, that was going to be $250. Jesus Christ, dude. Mine was going to be $250 before they had any idea how to like contact the right insurance company. But even insurance companies are like, you know what? We're not going to cover this anymore. Insurance, dude. My wife works in insurance, and it's like, what a scam. What a freaking scam that is. Ugh, a lot of money because they don't pay anything. We do all the paying, and then it's like, I can't remember the last time that insurance has actually come in handy for me. It was probably my 2 surgeries, and that's it. Yeah, that's probably it. But it was going to be $250 out of pocket for the one test that had to go to the lab. And I remember when I go to the urgent care, I swear I'm finishing up. I swear I am. Just hold. I'm almost done. We go to the urgent care, and I'm like, and they're like, why are you getting the test? And I'm like, they're like, are you traveling or do you have symptoms? And I was like, well, yes, both. I said, I am traveling. So first I said, I am traveling. And then she's like, okay. And then I said, and I have a cough and some sniffling. And she's like, all right, you need to get up and immediately go into that room. And then she called out to someone. She's like, we need a hose down, a wipe down in room 3. It felt like I was in, you know that scene from Cloverfield where, what's her face? So hot. She was in Party Down. I can't remember her name. Liz? No, it's not it. Liz? They're in quarantine, right? There are the ward or the triage, wherever the hell it is, where all the military's around and everyone's like sick or bleeding or whatever. And they have like the, all of a sudden she turns. She's like, I don't feel so good. And she's like bleeding from the eyes. And they were like, get her in there. And they rush her into the behind the tarp. And then her, spoiler alert, she just blows up, I think. I think she just explodes, like her head explodes or something like that. Oh, that sucked. But that's exactly what that scenario was for me at the urgent care. It was like, as soon as they said, oh, I do have a cough and some sniffling, they're like, you need to get up and move into that room right now. Tiffany, I need to wipe down room 3. It's just like disinfectant spray hose. It's just like, all right, Jesus. That woman was not happy with me. She definitely should. I thought they were not supposed to shove the Q-tip up that far anymore. I thought they didn't have to. And she definitely Facebook poked my brain, my cerebellum. But yeah, I was negative. I've tested negative. I've been negative since before COVID was a thing. It's where negative is a good thing, right? So that's where life is at right now. Just like it's awfully quiet, you know? You don't hear Bree in the background. You don't hear my wife huffing and puffing on the Peloton in the background. It's just me, and that's what it's going to be. So I try to pump these out every Monday, Tuesday, if possible. I'm not going to try and like overextend myself when it comes to getting out the videos. You know, I might do it here and there when I have the free time. But yeah, your boy is getting divorced. I would say the biggest fear in my life, and it's happening to me, and still don't believe it. And you know, so what's the outlook? What happens from here on out? It's tough knowing that the next 15 years of my life, I'm going to have to, everything's going to be a negotiation. I'm watching Ozark right now, Jason Bateman. I feel like that's kind of my life right now, where it's like when I put out this fire and I think that's good, then another fire pops up. So yeah, people are not afraid to kick a man when he's down. I'll say that. People are not afraid to do that. You can share with people, like I've shared with some people, you know, to give them context about why I'm behaving the way I am, or why I have a certain attitude or demeanor or tone, or, you know, just a disposition. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm sorry. And then it's just like, well, we're still going to like dog pile on you, dude. We're going to pig pile on you big time. Sorry. So, yeah, just trying to survive, you know, one step at a time. You know, some friends are like, oh, you got to get out there and get some strange. You got to get some random. I'm just like, yeah, because it was so easy for me before. And now I'm 20 pounds to 20 to 30 pounds, and that's being generous, overweight, in my sad dad pad with a daughter. So at 41, I'm sure, you know, all the sorority girls are chomping at the bit to get a piece of the action. But no, I have no interest in any of that. Really. I really don't. My interest is in talking through this shit on this here pod, hopefully making your life better, making you laugh, and understanding that tragedy plus time equals comedy. So I'm sure we'll look back at this years down the road and laugh our little nips off. It'll get better. It will. It has to, right? So this was not to get pity. This is not to make you feel bad. This was more of, I guess, an explanation, a deep dive into, you know, and I keep seeing like these fucking movies about like a marriage story, and like what was the most recent one with Oscar Isaac and what's her face, and it's just like the killing of a marriage, and it's just like, no, I have no interest. I don't want to see that shit. I don't want to relive it. So it's we're gonna get through it. It's gut wrenching. It's heartbreaking. It's devastating. I don't. But in a way, you look back. I've looked at everything that I've been able to do while this is all going on, and it is somewhat kind of inspiring, I guess. I mean, I'm not, I probably, I'm not going to give myself a pat on the back, but it's like, it's touch and go, it's painful. And, but I think if I can get through this and not completely mess up my child, my daughter, and I do feel really bad for her. And my wife keeps saying, don't say that. Don't say that. You shouldn't. And it's like, it's going to be tough. It's going to be so tough for her. And it's pointless for me to say that to my wife because my parents didn't get divorced. Maybe they should have. That's an argument for another time. But I always had the mom and the dad there, right? And my wife didn't. So I think she's experienced that. She's gone through it and she's come out of it in a fairly strong place for her. Not to say that she's flawless or perfect or without, her flaws and her errors, but she thinks that she's done it and that Bree can do it too. And I'm not arguing that she can't. It's just, it's going to be challenging, right? Because that's not always the case across the board. I'm thinking more in terms of school, the other kids, the experiences that they're having, even the stuff that the school does. It can make a child feel a certain way. Like I'll give you an example and then I'll sign off. Hey, we need a picture of your family, of your mommy and your daddy. And it's like certain things like that where it's like, we're not doing family pics anymore. We're kind of disjointed. We're separated. We're not a cohesive unit anymore. It's just little stuff like that there's still that family dynamic of the mommy and the daddy and the kid and the family. And I think they emphasize that maybe a lot at the school. And so that gets in Bree's head. And so then, she's smart and she asks questions. And eventually she's going to get to a point where she's like way more understanding of the situation and that our situation is not like other situations. And it's just guiding her through that. I get that. But not looking forward to it. But that's what life is, right? Life comes at you pretty fast. And man, did it come fast. The fact that in a span of 8 years, I went from single to madly in love to engaged to married with a kid to now separated on the way to divorced in less than 10 years. I mean, that's like I understand that's like the 8 years, I guess, is 7 to 8 years is usually like the amount of time a marriage lasts before the first divorce. I read that somewhere. I can't even make it to 7 or 8 years. I mean, to less than 5. But I don't know if I want to do that again. And I know everyone says that, and that's like a common theme. Everyone who gets, not everyone, but most people that get divorced say that I'm going to fall in love again. I'm never going to get married again. And then they do. I don't get that. I really don't get that feeling. I just don't. But I know that Cassie's going to find someone else. And I've already created an image, whole persona for that guy that she's going to end up with. And he's a doucher. Yep, he's a doucher. And I'm not going to like him one bit. And it's going to suck seeing him play father to Bree. That's going to be tough. But I'm dead inside, so that's good. I don't think anything can impact me or affect me anymore. I'm not dead inside. I like to pretend to be. There's still some things that definitely hurt, but not as much. Calloused? Is that the word? Yeah, I'm probably calloused. Well worn. So yeah, dude, we'll get through it. I know this is a little bit of a downer of an episode, but it's part of my story. And yeah, it's probably selfish, self-centered, narcissistic, but in telling this story, I guess the goal, right, the hope is that other people going through the same thing can sympathize, empathize, can take away something from it. I am no longer into rom-coms. I'm taking a little break from rom-coms for a little bit. Most family dramas, a little bit out on those right now. More focused on sci-fi thrillers. That's kind of where I'm at right now. So, but that'll be the goal moving forward. Is like each week, I'm not going to try and get into the Giants and Mets if I don't have to. I'm not going to talk TV and movies if I don't have to. It's more free flowing. It's more about just getting the word out, man. Just letting you know how things are, letting you know that it's not the end of the world, and yeah. there are people out there who do care. Most people don't. I will say that. Most people don't. They don't want to be bothered with your sob story. And I get it. But I often share this stuff so that it's like, I don't know, kind of fills in the blanks, gives you a little more color, lets people know what's what. But that was it. That was the break. That was the 1 year break, was to address what's going on there. And it's now in a spot where it should be over soon. And we can look to the next chapter, whatever the next chapter is, whatever it is. I'm just, we'll see. I guess. I don't know. Even the next 2 years will be interesting because it's like, are we going to stay in this area? We're going to move closer to our mom. And then I'm in Pennsylvania and it's like, what am I doing? But as long as I can snuggle with the little bug and watch movies or do arts and crafts, she's super into that. Dinosaur eggs. Oh my God, dude. Chiseling away at dinosaur eggs to find like the little dinosaur inside, doing a dinosaur puzzle. The dino egg bath bombs are huge. You throw that in there in the bath and like there's a little plastic dinosaur in the egg and like, oh my God. So there's you gotta appreciate the little things, right? They say that. And sometimes I just get too wrapped up and like, trying to solve everything in my head that I don't just embrace the moment, embrace the present and try and just enjoy what's right in front of me. So I guess it's growth. I don't know. I still feel like, I'm not as willing to grow or bend or adapt as much as I probably was in the past. Kind of like, all right, it is what it is. It's kind of like the mantra now. Like, it is what it is. I am who I am. I can work on it. And I say I'm going to work on it. But it's also like, change is hard, dude. Change is hard. So kudos, props, flowers to anyone who's figured it out. And if you go on social media, it looks like a lot of people have it figured out. Just beautiful. I love getting Christmas cards, despite how I feel currently about love and family and all that, marriage. I do love that I still get Christmas cards from my friends and, pictures of their families and everything and all that. I'm sure they have their own troubles and problems and all that, bumps in the road, but just love it. I love seeing that stuff. I still have my Christmas tree up. It's January 24th. I still have my Christmas tree up. Sorry, not sorry, dude. It gives me joy. It gives me joy. I don't know what to tell you. So with that, the goal of this pod is to bring you joy in whatever way possible. And if you're not getting that, then you got to let me know. Hey, doofus, cut back on this. Give me a little more of that. I crave feedback, even though it absolutely pains me and kills me to hear it. I say this at work all the time. It's like, I crave feedback. I probably won't accept it very well or respond to it very well, but I'd rather know it than not know it, right? And of course, knowing it is one thing and then doing something about it is another. All right. God damn, Neil. Shut the F up. That's it for this week's episode. Who knows what's on the horizon, for next week, but hopefully, you're staying safe, you're staying happy, you're staying healthy. And if you're not, it's only temporary. Adios, muchachos.